Jason, because I'm a long-time fan of your work, and you've been part of some really iconic British gangster films. But when the Stoic came your way, what was it that drew you to this project to play Carlisle?
Well, you know what? The thing is that you kind of, I'm really lucky that if you're never in fashion, you're never out of fashion, right? So it means you can't quite be boxed. So the amount of stuff I do is prolific and um, very varied. And so when this came along, basically the real truth, if I'm really honest with you, which I will be, is there's an amazing line producer that I've worked with and producer called Neil Jones, who's a Welsh guy who line produced my feature film and my first feature film, which was called Eat Locals. And he was like, Jason, listen, you can't have the crane and have the tower. You have to choose one or the other. And I would go, well, I can have a pay for it. And he goes, that's not the way it works, Jason. There's a budget. You're meant to stick to the budget. And I really loved him, and he was great with me. And since then, we've sort of hit a kind of we're basically developing stuff together. One of the projects looks like it might happen in early next year, which is great. But he phones me up every now and again and goes, listen, somebody dropped out yesterday, so we need you here tomorrow. Will you come and help us out? And I'll give you a brown envelope full of cash. And I go, I'll be there, bro. Don't worry. And that's kind of what happened on the Stoic, even though I don't think anyone pulled out, but he was like, do me a favor, Chase. I know you don't know them, but they're nice lads. Can you get down to Wales for 2 nights? And I was like, if you want me there, bruv, I'm there. So that's how it worked.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know when I spoke to Scott last week, he was so excited to have you part of this film. And I know the two of you didn't really get to work together much on this one, but what did you think
Yeah.
about seeing his work here? Because I think he's really trying to make a statement with this movie and maybe do something new with his career.
Well, you know what? It's like I know as you do, you're obviously I can see by the shelves behind you that you're a big film fan. Um, and the logistics are horrific, the logistics and the hurdles of getting your film made. So maybe 0.5% of the population ever do it. And so anyone that does it, like Scott and John, who was the writer and director, um, I've got nothing but respect for anyone who gets it done at whatever level. And if what comes out is, at a budget reasonable, even like encouragingly good, which I think the Stoic is, then I think it's a great thing. It's a really, really great thing. And it's their first movie, and they'll go on, and money makes things easier, and money makes things look better. It can also ruin things eventually, but between 1 million and 5 million, that's the real sort of key area where you can really use money to make something special. Um, and I think that's where they're headed.
Yeah, for sure. They did a great job. I had a great time watching the film, and Carlisle, it's a small role, but I think to begin with, it really establishes the tone of the film. And we see him very matter-of-factly take out a knife to kill someone. So to come in and play a dark character like that, what do you enjoy, even if it is a case of just hopping in for a couple of days and then heading out again?
You know what? Honestly, it's just about, I mean, I can do that standing on my head. You know what I mean? So it's really just about supporting young filmmakers and or new filmmakers and being part of their kind of like entourage, the new entourage. You have to keep uh, it's quite nomadic, the film business. So, the Matt Vaughn kind of Guy Ritchie, Lock, Stock, Layer Cake group took me, 12 films in, ended with X-Men, and then they move on, and you need to sort of reestablish yourself into a community of filmmakers and art, creative people. You need to always keep trying to reestablish yourself and change people's perceptions of what you're trying to do. And the Stoic for me is part of that. But it's also like my missus goes, you've got to go and earn money to make money for the family, but you're allowed to do two shorts and one independent where you earn nothing a year, and I won't moan about it. And if you do more than that, I'll moan about it. And she's right, disappearing down to Wales for 2 days, coming back with a brand envelope of money is not a bad thing to do, but it can't be done every weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned obviously working with filmmakers like Guy Ritchie and Matthew Vaughn, and when you were in their films, their early films, it put you on the map as an actor to make it so
Yeah, absolutely.
you come onto a film like this, you're the big name that's going to, I think, draw a lot of people in a lot of ways and get some attention. So is that quite a strange thing for you to look at now that you're like the actors you once worked with who are more established? You're now that actor who's going to hopefully bring more eyes to a film like this.
Well, in a little way. I mean, you know, I wouldn't think that I was that, but I mean, a certain budget, between 26 pence and £6.50, I might be quite interesting. But I'm being self-effacing, but whatever helps get it over the line and gets, get which they did, after they made it, they found people to invest in its distribution and its publication and all the things which are really hard about um film making once you finish the film. If I helped a little bit in that, then I'm chuffed to bits, and I know that if they go further down the line, that then I'll be a consideration, and that's great. But you don't, no one owes you anything. The reason I did it is not because I think these two are going to be big filmmakers and then they'll give me a part. The reason I did it is because it's like a kind of circle, you've got to put in order to get back. And I've been really lucky like that. I've been really, really, as you know, I've been really lucky and worked with the best filmmakers in the world. And you know, if I can help out, I'll jump in. Especially if it's through a mate like Neil Jones. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, of course. And I know this whole concept of Stoics wasn't something I was overly familiar with, but does it help? I know you said you're doing a friend a favor in some ways, but when there is an interesting concept and something you can look at and go, I can be excited to be part of this, that must help a lot as well coming onto a
Yeah,
project.
absolutely. I mean, if it's not, my old man used to say you've got in your back pocket, you've got your fuck off money, and if you go to your back pocket and you've got some cash in it, and you're not, you're not under stress, then you can say I'm not interested. But um, if that's gone and you need to go to work, then you do whatever project's in front of you. And this wasn't one of those moments. This was something I thought this is really cool and different, and the whole sort of like slightly intellectual idea and the concept of the Stoic. I thought, and they, they did it on purpose. They did it to take it above the sort of quagmire of gangster movies, to make it something a little bit more elevated. And I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned X-Men before, and we had Deadpool and Wolverine come out earlier this year with Azazel in it, but obviously
Yeah,
you. So
yeah,
we
that's
I know
funny.
Vinnie Jones said he was contacted and he decided not to do it. Did they ever reach out to you or
It
no?
was the same thing. I'm just getting my satay because it's 9 o'clock here. Thank you very much. Come on. Abacaba, come on. Terima kasih. Terima kasih. Abacaba. That's just my little bit of Malay. Yeah, the same thing happened. Basically, they came to us and they were like, "Would you like to do it? It's 3 days. I think it was 3 days fighting, 2 days makeup tests. But basically, you'll be hired as a stunt performer."
Hmm.
I was like, mate, I mean, listen, by the way, if I needed a couple of grand, I'd have done it, but I didn't at the time. So I was like, you know what? Let a stuntman do it. They'll do a good job and it's fine. And actually, it's not done me any harm because everyone keeps going, oh man, we saw you in, Deadpool, you're in another big movie. I'm like, okay, well, if I get a few signatures at Comic-Con because I was in Deadpool, I'll take it.
Yeah, why not? And I mean, obviously Matthew was going to come back and he was going to do Days of Future Past originally, and things changed. And it looked like when
Mhm.
First Class ended, there was big plans for Azazel to be part of that group with Magneto. So they killed your character off screen, which I think myself and a lot of people were quite gutted about. Were you disappointed that things didn't pan out? You didn't stick around for longer?
You know what? The truth is, those big movies are lucrative and fun to a degree. But the reality is you're, 5 months away from home.
Yeah.
You put all that makeup on and you go, cut. Thanks very much, Jason. We'll see you next Thursday. It can be wearing. And, even though of course it's a thrill and I grew up wanting to be in those big movies. And even here in Malaysia, people like, oh, Azazel, Azazel, we love you. And they were doing pictures and I have to do the whole thing, with the knife. And that's amazing. But the reality is, if you don't want the money, it's not very uh, artistically fulfilling. You know what I mean? And by the way, my mum went to work every day and hated every minute of it. So I'm not saying I need to love every minute of going to work, but those big movies are financially thrilling and artistically disappointing.
Yeah, no, I can completely understand that. And what you were saying about Deadpool and Wolverine to bring you in to be a stuntman for a couple of days, I imagine you just want to do more and sink your teeth into a better role than that, really.
Yeah, I'd take Stoic over Deadpool any day of the week.
That's a fair one. And of course, you did get another chance at comic books with Pennyworth. That was a character you got to do a lot more with.
Yes.
Must have been a fun one.
Pennyworth was great fun. I mean, there you go. I mean, that's the point. It's like when you go to work, when you're filming, you want to be on set every day. You don't want to be if you're at home, it's great. Like Pennyworth, we're at Leavesden, and some of the mums just flashed me.
Oh, wow.
But when we were at Leavesden, it was great because I could go home. So if I was off for 3 or 4 days, it was fine. But when you're away from home on X-Men or Benjamin Button or anything like that, it's tough. It's really tough, and it's a choice. It's like, do I want to do that with my life? Do I want to miss my kids and my wife, or do I want to stay at home and choose the projects that are here? And the truth is, when it's David Fincher, I'll go away, but with Marvel and X-Men stuff, it's like if Azazel came back, I'd love that. But now probably I'm in a position where I can say, do you know what, guys? I totally get Azazel doesn't speak much, and maybe we could just do it over like 9 weeks, and then you could just shoot me out. And maybe they'd listen, maybe they wouldn't. But it's nice to be in the position where you're not absolutely gagging to do that. Like all the figures behind you, it's so funny. I can see them all. But unless you commit, you ain't getting a figure, and that's the
Yeah.
that's the difference. It's like I'd rather have a family than a figure.
Yeah.
There you go. That was good.
That's a good line. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that. Someone needs to you need to remember that one. And yeah, I completely get it because it's a lot of people will remember you as Azazel, but then you talk about Lock, Stock, and Snatch and those layer cake iconic roles like that. You've done so much in your career. Like you said, Benjamin Button, an incredible film with
yeah.
David Fincher. How do you feel about when people do remember you for very specific roles and just look at back at you in that role and you think, well, hang on, I've done a hell of a lot more than that along the way as well.
It doesn't matter, mate. I mean, listen, it's what,
Hmm.
film is a popular art form. It's like what people want to see. The truth is, like, obviously, Lock, Stock is forever. But like the geezer, there was these guys on the roofers on my street, and they're opposite the house opposite my street, and they're on the roof. And as I walk out the door, I could see them looking at me and a few of them whispering and stuff. And then the next day they were, morning. I'm like, morning, lads. And then the next day they went, excuse me, mate. And I'm like, what? And they went, are you the geezer from Lockstock? And I went, yeah, that's me. I'm the geezer from Lockstock. What? Fuck all since then, nothing at all? And I went, no, I've done 1 or 2 bits. Have you seen the street I live in? Sorry, mate, what then? What have you done? I'm like, I'm not going to shout up my whole CV to you up there, but trust me, there were other films apart from Lockstock. And that's the way it is, it's always going to be that. It's like, no matter what I do when I go to Russia, they're like, when I was working in Russia, they're like, Transporter 2, very good film, that was so good. It's geographic. What people like is is all about where you are in the world.
Yeah, and some
But
some
there's not a lot of pull for Seed of Chucky and Spice Girls the movie. There isn't really a place where I get hounded about that.
well, you never know. But something that is, I think, consistent throughout your career is, and again with the Stoic, you supported the British film industry, I think, in a big way to be part of a movie like this one. So is that an important thing for you to continue doing
Yeah.
that, especially after COVID and streaming
Well,
and
like I said, for me, because I'm in the lucky position of doing enough work annually to support my kids and family, and I'm not into flash cars. I'm not in really. I mean, I love to travel and stuff, but um, I can do that. I can afford to do little independent movies, which I love, which remind me of why I did it in the first place. So yeah, that is important to me. Yeah,
Oh, amazing. Well, Jason, it's been such a pleasure to speak to you because, like I said, beyond X-Men, I'm a fan of so much of what you've done, all the projects we talked about, and I had a lot of fun seeing you in this one, and I think other people will as well because it's a good movie and I think a good start for those guys, and I'm sure they appreciated you being in it just as much as I did. So, thank you so
fingers
much.
crossed. We'll be talking about one of their films with a bigger budget very soon.
Yeah, bigger envelope as well, so that won't be a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, mate.
Thanks so much, Jason. Lovely to meet you.
Cheers.
Cheers.